So, my first question for you is in response to the press release emailed that we kind of had the chain link with
Mhm.
surrounding your oversight visit at the Eugene ICE facility. First of all, why did you feel the need to have that visit at the Eugene ICE facility in particular?
So first of all, as a congressional representative by law, I do have the ability to have oversight and to inspect facilities. As we've seen, this administration, it has an overly aggressive, quite frankly, racist, um, anti-immigrant policy, and I wanted to make sure I could see for myself where the facilities were. There was no one at the there were um, there weren't there weren't any people that were interned at the facility at that time. I also wanted to speak to the people in charge so that we could develop a relationship so that when I had constituents who had issues, we were able to have someone that we could talk to ask questions with, and also to set up our next visit, which will be to the Tacoma facility. In the Eugene facility, the average stay is 4 hours, although we know that people have stayed overnight, but then they very quickly get shipped to Tacoma. I want to make sure I have eyes on that facility where people are being kept for a longer period of time. I want to make sure that I have eyes on constituents who may be there so that when their families call, we're able to answer questions. And again, it is part of my job as Congresswoman to have that oversight.
And would you say that you said you wanted to establish a relationship with the people there? Would you say those conversations were productive and welcoming? Did it meet that goal of establishing that relationship for future conversations?
Look, they were very direct, very honest, and absolutely. And we said if we have questions, if we see things that are happening that we feel are not legal, we want to be able to pick up the phone and call. And yes, they understood that. I felt like it was a very direct, respectful conversation.
Great. And
On
was
a
this,
really, really difficult issue.
yes, most definitely. And was this a this visit, is it a one-time thing? Is it something maybe you're looking at doing more frequently?
So what I know is that our immigrant communities are terrified, right? We have an administration that has very much targeted any immigrant, whether they're here legally or not. We're seeing people that have green cards that are here legally, that are following the processes of a very, very broken immigration system. People have been part of our community for a long period of time. And I want to make sure that I'm representing all constituents and that the Constitution, which affords due process to everyone in the United States, whether they're a citizen or not, is followed. I think this is something that my constituents are incredibly concerned about. They're both, I represent very conservative areas, very progressive areas, and then a lot of people who are concerned about public safety and really, really care about their neighbors. So this is an issue that's important and one that we'll be keeping track of.
Great, thank you. What is your stance? You mentioned the administration. What is your stance on the recent decision to send National Guard troops to a city not too far from here in Eugene?
Right. Look, with everything that's going on in the world right now, I think declaring Portland a war zone is completely unhinged. We should not be sending the military to U.S. cities. This is an overreach. This goes against, the 1878 Posse Comitatus Act, which really stated, and for different reasons, right? But that we need to maintain a clear separation between the military and civilian law enforcement, right? Everyone It doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum, should want to protect the personal liberties and prevent the military from being used as a police force. So the cities that the president is sending the National Guard to and threatening to send the military to, right? And understand, right, that people in the military are not trained for de-escalation. They are trained for combat. And the president is sending them to our cities, to Chicago, to LA, to Portland, to Washington, D.C. It's not right. It's unconstitutional. And it is the first step in instituting martial law and trying to silence anyone who disagrees with the president. I mean, if you believe in the Constitution, and I took an oath to uphold the Constitution, right, you should fight for the First Amendment right to free speech. And that means the freedom to speak out against a political figure. So this is absolutely chilling, absolutely wrong. And everyone, regardless of your political stripes, should fight against it with every single breath in our bodies.
Thank you. You mentioned upholding our right to freedom of speech. And one of the ways Portland's well known to do that by is protesting.
Right.
What do you think protesters should do now? Should they continue their efforts? Should they stay home? Particularly when the National Guard could be expected there in days.
Right. I support peaceful protests. We cannot allow violence to happen at all. I mean, that's illegal, right? You have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom from accountability for your actions. So peaceful protesting is allowed. I encourage people to make their voices heard. And also, people need to understand that what's happening in Portland, what's happening in Chicago, what's happening in LA is a setup. If there's one fight that happens, the administration is going to magnify that. They are taking videos from 2020, putting them on Fox News and telling the world that Portland's on fire. It is not. So again, we have the right to protest. We have the right to speak out against what we see as wrong. And what this administration is doing is overriding the protections that we have in the Constitution. I do think it's time for people to speak up peacefully.
Thank you. And a few days ago, Governor Tina Kotek, when this came out, mentioned that this isn't the kind of presidential resources she needs, the city needs. Do you agree with that statement? She mentioned particularly maybe more resources with mental health. Do you think that statement, do you agree with that? And do you also think there's other things that on a presidential level could be more beneficial to not only Portland, but maybe the entire state of Oregon?
So we're less than almost 12 hours away, just over 12 hours away from a complete government shutdown. And what's the president doing? Saying he's going to send the military to all of these blue states who hurt his feelings because they didn't vote for him. Americans will be hurt. I was just speaking to a group of farmers, right, who came out to DC. I'm in Washington, D.C., because if the Republicans want to come to the table and make sure that we keep the government open and have negotiations, I'm here ready to work. They were asking us to pass a farm bill, which we have not been able to pass. We should be working on that. We should be working on investing in infrastructure. We have a surface transportation bill that we're working to pass through the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. We have lots of things that the government should be doing. I talked to some farmers that were affected from Eastern Oregon that were affected by floods. FEMA right now is broken and not able to function even in the most minimal way, not just in blue states, but in red states as well. We should be putting energy into that. And instead, we have a president that is posting fake AI videos mocking the Democratic leader of the Senate, the Democratic leader of the House, and then posting something about med beds that are supposed to regrow limbs. This is the president of the United States right now, where we've got instability in the world, where we've got real issues and a potential government shutdown where people will be hurt. And what's our president doing? Posting about a fake conspiracy about regrowing limbs. Where is the media asking about his ability to lead? Asking about, if he's losing his mind or memory. I remember 24/7 people were talking about Joe Biden and how he should step aside. Where are those voices now when the president is posting such crazy stuff when he should be leading? So should he be doing and focusing energies of the federal government elsewhere than in the city of Portland? Absolutely. It's embarrassing and it's dangerous.
Thank you for that response. What would your message be? You mentioned it a little earlier in the interview about how folks might be a little scared no matter who you are with this happening in their city, in their home state. What's your message to them who might be just scared of what's happening?
Well, we look at, my friend Pramila Jayapal, she's a representative from Washington, and she was talking to people about peaceful protesting. She was talking to workers about using their voice or withholding labor if they want to make their voices heard. And a sitting state legislator from Arizona said she should be executed. That is chilling. And what these people want is for us to be too afraid to speak up, to speak out. And it is scary. But I think those of us who can should step up, should speak out, and understand that there are members of our community, whether it's our immigrant communities that are rightfully terrified with what this administration is doing. We've got other vulnerable members of the trans community who have been targeted by this administration. They're afraid. So those of us who can speak up should speak up, because if we are quiet now and we let this happen, again, the president sending the military into cities because people dare to vote for somebody else, we all need to speak out against this. It is a misuse of our military. And again, we have to have the separation between our military and our civilian law enforcement.
Thank you for that response. My final question for you is, I know this is definitely a personal what if question, but do you see the president expanding the National Guard presence into other cities, such as we have weekly protests in front of the ICE facility here in Eugene? Would you put it past, would you foresee this in the future, maybe spilling from Portland down into Eugene?
Look, it's a slippery slope, right? If we say it's fine, he's sending the military into Chicago or, Portland and LA. Here in Washington, DC, we have the National Guard outside the building where I live, and I can tell you, I feel very, very safe there. We didn't need the National Guard. But if we sleep on this, if we allow this to happen in these cities, saying it's not me, to these people, to immigrants, to the trans community, to, whoever they're targeting at the moment, it's just a matter of time till they come for the rest of us. So what I know is last Tuesday, there were people who got arrested at the ICE facility for actions that were not in line with peaceful protesting. But we have had protesters every Tuesday at the ICE Center, and they follow the rules. They follow the law. They're peacefully protesting. They are making their voices heard because they can speak up for immigrants who are being targeted, right? I support peaceful protesting, period, End of story. And again, if we don't speak out against what's happening in these larger cities, it's just a matter of time till they come for the rest of us.
Thank you. And I do want to just touch on very quickly,
Lily, I'm so sorry, but we are well over time here. We
Okay.
do unfortunately have to wrap.
Okay, no problem. I just do want to let you know that the Know Your Rights resource website, that's still something you want to.
Yeah, I will speak to that. Look, on our website, our government website, right at the top, we have the Know Your Rights section. So if you are an immigrant and you want to know what your rights are and the rights to due process and who you can contact, absolutely look at our website. And again, anybody that is dealing with ICE, dealing with the IRS, having issues with the Veterans Administration, with federal oversight of student loans, getting a passport, you can contact our office, and we're happy to facilitate working with you in any federal office.